And here we are today, celebrating the Texas Liberator Project, with 356 Texas Liberators being honored, those that are still with us and those who have since passed. As chair of the Dallas Holocaust Museum and the daughter of 2 Holocaust survivors, I share today with all of you the joy in my heart and the thankfulness that we all have for each of you who are liberators. To each of you and your families, we thank you. We thank you beyond any expectations that I ever thought I would have. I have the ability to say thank you on behalf of my family and many, many others. I lost 37 relatives on my father's side, including my grandparents and my aunt, and 22 on my mother's side, including grandfather. This day brings me full circle because I am here to remember them and to honor you as patriots, individual liberators who came to save thousands, if not millions, since my family was exterminated. It is never too late to honor those who liberated the camps during World War II. Over 70 years later, thank you can never express the gratitude that I feel, and those of us who are second generation and third generation, now even seeing some fourth generation. It is my feeling that these unselfish warriors who came to change the course of history deserve thank you over and over and over again. Just as survivors have a precious story and oral history to tell, so do the liberators of these camps. The Texas Liberator Project identifies and catalogs man's inhumanity to man, story after story about what they witnessed. Cruelty, deprivation, slaughter of men, women, and even children for no other reason than their religion. With only one goal in mind, the annihilation of every Jewish man, woman, and child from the face of this earth. Today, these stories, more than any time in our history, must be told. For Holocaust deniers still exist and are raising their ugly voices again. We honor the liberators today whose lives were forever changed by what they saw. They witnessed and they spoke their own words and through their own eyes. We now have an oral history of Texas liberators to pass down from generation to generation. For all of us to remember to never forget the evil that man can perpetrate on other men.
In the beginning, we did not realize that the European liberation period is a Texas story. For of the 72 camps that were liberated during World War II, Texans participated in 44 of those camps. So my thanks goes out to each and every one of you who participated in the liberation of those camps. Now, the Texas Liberator Honor Roll is an online database that will continue to live as we continue to learn more about each and every liberator who is yet to be identified. But we have identified at this time 335 liberators of 44 different camps.
We are honored today to have several Texas liberators in attendance with their families, here, as well as families of those liberators who have already passed, to educate Texans of all ages of the historical context of the Holocaust. The online educational tools at the core of this project provide students, educators, and the public the opportunity to engage with and understand the gravity of this event in a meaningful, instructive way. Again, I thank the Texas Holocaust Commissioners for honoring the tremendous courage and sacrifice of the Texas Liberators and helping future generations better understand this period of history.
This project doesn't belong to any particular area of this state, any particular group of people. It is something that we all share in as we honor these extraordinary men. The educational and service mission of a university is partially addressed by the creation and dissemination of new knowledge and new technology, but an important role of a university is also to preserve our culture and our history.
So that every generation, every child can hear these stories and hear about sacrifice and hear about heroism, but also hear about how these great men who witnessed the landing of Normandy, the Battle of the Bulge, also wept when they saw just how cruel we could be to one another. To remember the smell, to remember the walking skeletons, and to remember just what it felt like to understand how frail and fragile we are as human beings. I thank each and every single one of the Liberator families. I thank each and every single one of the survivors and the survivor families for entrusting me, for entrusting my students, for entrusting our teams, for entrusting our university, for entrusting this commission with your history. Because that is what you have done. You answered a first call of duty when your nation needed you to protect and serve. You answered a second call of duty when the Texas Holocaust and Genocide Commission needed you to stand as witnesses to the Holocaust. And now it is our turn to answer the third call of duty to make sure that your stories are never forgotten.
I cannot explain the horror that I saw. I'm looking right now in my mind at the man that gave me a rabbit skin coat. As soon as I opened the gate to Bergen-Belsen, like if somebody scored a touchdown, whoa, but very muffled. They were all skeletons. They were all dying. And I went in and checked out the where the receiving was and all that, and there were no Germans anywhere. I came back, and this man came and wanted to give me a rabbit skin coat. I told him, no, I'm an American soldier. I can't take anything. You're free. Go, go.
"79 years ago today, the Third Reich unleashed the notorious Kristallnacht pogrom on its tiny Jewish minority. Attackers included not just stormtroopers and Hitler Youth members, but also everyday citizens, neighbors, professional colleagues, classmates, and even former friends. Jews were assaulted, beaten, and arrested. Over 250 synagogues and many cemeteries were desecrated and destroyed. Jewish-owned businesses and homes were ransacked and burned. Jews' property was looted or torn apart and thrown into the streets. They were murdered in their homes and businesses or even out in the open. Once the pogrom subsided, the German government ordered the Jewish community to pay for the damages. Kristallnacht, or Crystal Night, also known as the Night of Broken Glass, marked a dramatic escalation in publicly visible, state-orchestrated violence against the Jews in the Third Reich. While the world was shocked by the news, foreign leaders reacted with little more than words.
The Nazi assault against the Jew is echoed in any act of cruelty, in any act that would deny the humanity of any person. This is something that the Texas Holocaust and Genocide Commission bears in mind in all of its initiatives. Holocaust education is ethics education. My father-in-law was one of the Texas liberators of Dachau. He never spoke of the war except to share his testimony one time on videotape 50 years after the war. He called for compassion, which is a theme that recurs throughout all of our liberator testimonies. After he passed away, I cleaned out his closet and came across a shoebox where he had carefully placed his war medals. He had compartmentalized his memories. He had tried to forget. I use him as an example because I know that many families in this room have had the same experiences. And as difficult as they may have been, they also have given us a gift. While the Nazis sought to destroy lives and eliminate memory, the Texas Liberators are the true victors, for they leave us all with memorable legacy of human kindness after shattering and hope after despair. These American veterans of World War II, through hard work, sacrifice, and determination, hardened by war, became our greatest generation. But we must also acknowledge that so many of our men remained afflicted by the burden of what they witnessed at the camps. One of the great ironies is that just as these men attempted to bring liberation to so many survivors, they too struggled to find relief after the war. Like my dad, many of the liberators came home and simply did not talk about their experiences with anyone, including their own families. Their experiences stayed in a special place, in their memories, locked away.
These survivors will now help us honor the Texas Liberators by presenting them with medallions from the Texas Holocaust and Genocide Commission.
Liberator Bernie Chick Havey. A part of his testimony. Some of the things that you don't realize, it always makes you wonder, how could human beings do that to human beings? But worse than killing is the deprivation that he inflicted upon those people by starving them to death. The misery over years and years and years. And that I don't understand. I haven't ever come to grips. The privation that he inflicted, they inflicted. Not he, they. Because there were plenty of people to blame. Because you could, you know, a blind man would see what was going on. Bernie Chick Havey.
John William Concable. The second most memorable thing was one of our companies in a division liberated the first concentration camp at Ohrdruf in Germany. It was a subsidiary of Buchenwald, which was one of the most famous extermination camps. This was a work camp. The guards knew the Americans were coming, and they decided they would evacuate the camp, including the prisoners. But there were a number of them that couldn't move. They were too sick or too weak, and the guards went around and shot them all. They'd been starved, they'd been worked to death. You can't describe it, it's unbelievable.
Gerald Powell. War is hell, and freedom is not without cost. But how can human beings allow such an atrocity to take place? Gerald Powell.
Chester Chet Roan. In 2010, we took a battle tour. We ended in Mauthausen on the ceremony of the 65th anniversary of its liberation. One gentleman came up to thank me at the ceremony. He came up to me, and I knew he was American, dressed in a suit and the way he talked, but I'd never seen him before. And he came up and all he said was, "Thank you for saving my wife." And I thought, what wife did I save? You know, it didn't register at first. And then later, I found out he was the husband of one of the babies born in Mauthausen.
Herb Stern. I feel it is so important since so many survivors, either Holocaust survivors or people like myself, feel that we're at the end of our lives and possibly in another few years there are no so-called eyewitnesses that have been through all of this. Since you're talking about the Holocaust itself, over 6 million people that died in one form or another, plus the huge casualties during World War II, that I think it's so important for younger generations to have knowledge. So I feel that anything that we can do in publicizing that period, which was so traumatic in the 30s, 40s, and even into the 50s, I hope of a great deal of benefit for future generations. Herb Stern.
John Valls. And I was alone, mind you, and I walked and I saw a giant wall right on the street. And I said, "This is strange." I didn't know it was a prison camp. I opened the gate. It wasn't even locked. I opened the gate and I walked in and everybody was looking at me. Everybody was standing and there were some people in racks that I could see. They were laying down and all they did was got their heads up and looked and came right back down. They were dying.
Hope is indeed embodied in all of the members of the second generation that we are honored to have here with us today.
We honor the Texas liberators who have passed away by commemorating them through their children. The family of Wilson Canaplex.
The family of Lee Berg.
The family of John Cogan. The family of Michael Conis and Albert Davies, Jr.
The family of John Detling. The family of William Dippo.
Family of James Ellerbach. The family of Joe Evans.
The family of Mark Gieslin.
The family of Carol Gustafson.
The family of Ted Hartman.
The family of Noel Henkel.
Family of Sidney Hilder.
The family of James Huffines.
The family of Herman Josephs.
Family of Joseph Lee.
The family of Sigmund Leberman,
the family of Ben Love,
the family of Fred McCall,
the family of John Manning,
family of Jerry Morgan,
the family of Alfred Prashenko,
the family of A.I. Sheps,
the family of Otto Schleming,
the family of Melvin Waters,
family of Raymond Watson,
the family of William Womack,
I wish to thank all the family members here, and we honor those veterans who were part of your family. Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, you are almighty and righteous, the God of all time and of all creation. We thank you for your presence with us here as we conclude this historic event, celebrating and honoring the brave lives of our Texas liberators. Today we stand together in this solemn assembly, we who are the generations of the grateful, who live because they died and bled, who laugh because they suffered, who remember because in remembering we uphold all who lost their lives in battle and in concentration camps. Our hearts are committed to testify of the heroic deeds of our Texas liberators. With each Nazi camp they liberated, those so cruelly held in bondage had a chance for life, for restoration. With every gate opened, humanity, care, hope, and love shined once again upon men, women, and young ones that were marked for death. Because of these heroic deeds, our children and their children's children possess a strong heritage to stand against tyranny, to fight honorably, to hope for a world that embraces human dignity and respect for others. Sacrifice could not deter their mission. Vigilant, ready, strong, they marched into the unknown with hearts full of faith in freedom. And so they secured victory for multitudes, for generations.
Well, just like the measures of the Holocaust committees, that they wish to have it publicized and kept before the public eye, and especially the children in education. I feel that probably is the greatest source of maintaining discipline and having it known.
At this stage, with my cap I get stopped and I get handshake. Thank you for your service. This is great. This is the best thing about this is that people should not forget the Holocaust. It happened, and people don't believe it. People don't believe it yet. That there are many people that don't know.
Today we pray for our men and women in uniform who have answered your noble call to keep the peace through strength. Protect and guide them as they uphold America's safety in these challenging times. May peace prevail. May it prevail. Always we pray. Amen.